Well, let's see if this will work. Okay, everyone, I will need you to tell me if it works or not, because let's just say the way that I set this up right now is different than my normal studio apartment. There's a bit of a rain. I'm literally sitting outside under like a little bit of a cover, like it's the same that was over there. I have like about 50% battery. I'm running out of my mobile internet. So if this works, this is going to be the most glorious setup that I've done so far. But hopefully it does. Tell me about the quality of the stream. Can you hear me good? Is the video janky or not? So just tell me everything. Because the stream is supposedly live. Perfect. Seriously? Wow. That is experience. That is not something you can do by yourself. Like, unfortunately, I'll have to look down to read stuff, because like I used to have the notebook on the table, but because it started raining, it's a bit way too wet, so I'm a little bit afraid to have a laptop on the table. So maybe if it's gonna finish raining, it said that it might be a thunderstorm. So if it's gonna be a thunderstorm, that's gonna be a whole another level of experience, isn't it? So I'm gonna drink my coffee over here, and I'm gonna tell you everything. So I would like to receive your questions, because I really wanted to stream and talk with you guys and talk about what's happening in Berlin. But let's just say the environment was challenging, both in sense of finding a place to stream and equipment and everything. So let's just try to go through everything. But before we start, obviously, huge thanks to the moderating team. We just discussed recently with Starsky. We met yesterday with Starsky. We discussed just how important it is that I have a moderating team, and he said that he doesn't, so he's in a loser position there. So huge thanks to the moderating team, and please join me, give them a little bit of a clap inside of the chat, because without them this community wouldn't exist. We also, I have like about yay much different news that we need to cover, but I will be able to cover them only once I come back from this adventure. Unfortunately, the conditions are not good enough. So I'll need to figure that out when I'm gonna travel in July, how to make sure that the conditions are right. But thankfully, there will be a little bit easier. But that's a whole another thing. So let's talk about what's happening with Ukrainian strikes on Crimea. Right now, Ukraine has been pummeling Crimea non-stop, pretty much like day after day after day. I think there was like one night in between where there was no strikes, but like Crimea and some of the areas around Crimea, like Novorossiysk, and some of the other factories, like we're getting reports that Ukraine is sending literally hundreds of drones now. So it's massive strikes. Crimea, Ukraine is methodically demolishing the anti-air infrastructure, demolishing the air infrastructure such as planes and so on. And if you remember, like some maybe month ago or so, we were talking about what would it look like when F-16s would be coming in, what we would see. And I told you that one of the indicators that F-16s would be about to come is that we would start getting news about Crimea getting pummeled again and again and again and again. And that's exactly what we're observing. So my bet is that the F-16s are coming pretty soon. And that's a good news. Again, in details, we're going to talk about it in the video. So what you asking, guys? Oh my God, even my mouse is wet. Do you think the US will relax its restrictions on firing US weapons into Russia? I think that they should at least allow artillery, GMLSR, so 80 kilometers. Bruce, that's a good question. I mean, you all know my position, right? I thought that this is a absolutely inhumane policy. Like, it doesn't make any sense, right? For me, it just doesn't make any sense. Some kind of arguments that, like, you know, Russia is not it should not be attacked on its territory because it prohibited some kind of a convention or whatever, or some potential escalation. Absolute bullshit. Like, literally, those are the stupidest red lines that we drew from ourselves. Like, they have nothing to do with reality whatsoever. Like no argument stands there. No, the argument for escalation doesn't stand there. The argument for for like, oh, we just want to make sure that Ukraine can defend itself stands there, and the argument that's like, oh, yeah, but you know, Russia is not using this territory, so it's a peaceful territory or something, also doesn't stand there. It's stupid. It's a very, very stupid argument. It should not have been there in the first place. The fact that we need to discuss even that Ukraine should be able to strike, that's a little bit silly. With that said, we are where we are. And like, you know, the worst part is, like the worst part about, sorry, I'm going to bitch about this a little bit because I got really, really frustrated. So you remember when the first couple of Patriot systems came into Ukraine, and then Ukrainians executed this amazing trap for the Russian helicopters that were basically destroying the city of Kharkiv and killing civilians, you know, non-stop killing civilians. So Ukraine has put the Patriot system close to their border, and when there was like a pack of helicopters and planes coming in to strike Kharkiv again, then the Patriot fired and destroyed, like I think it was 4 helicopters or something. Like it was huge, huge news. And you know what? It turns out like because it was a German Patriot, there was an actual conflict where Germans literally almost like were super mad at Ukrainians, that Ukrainians used their weapons to fire at the territory of Russia. And like, you know, these are not even strike weapons. These are anti-air weapons. Like, what do you think they were used against on the territory of Russia? And it was like the Germans, like they were really, really mad, like the Scholz and everything. And this for me is like, if you cannot even use anti-air weapons, like the defensive in nature, you know, we have this weird media division. Like, thankfully, it's mostly gone now, right? Like, I'm pretty sure you know this as well, that the differentiation between the offensive weapons and defensive weapons, thankfully, it's kind of disappeared from the news cycle, and that's great. But even if we consider like that something like this existed, then the anti-air weapons would be like one of the most explicit distinctions of the defensive weaponry, right? Because it's very hard to use them offensively. Like I know it can be like S-300, but still. And then they're like, oh, don't use our defensive weapons on the territory of Russia. That was absolutely disgusting. And now we find out that it's not only Germany, that it's also, well, the US. And apparently US not only prohibits use of their weapons, they're also kind of pressuring both Ukraine and other partners to make sure not to allow Ukraine use other partners, other NATO partners, weapons on the territory of Russia. So we hear, like, you know, England saying, UK saying, oh, you can use our weapons, or France saying, you can use our weapons, Estonia saying, I think as well, Finland as well, but US saying is like, no, if you use like NATO weapons on the territory of Russia, that's a no-no. It just gets my blood boiling, sorry. I really, really hate that shit, and it should never have been existed. And I don't even understand what this policy stands for, you know? It's like some of the things I could understand, you know, like for like they're in some kind of sick and twisted logic, like non-escalation stuff, like we're not gonna deliver the additional capabilities for Ukraine because, you know, it's kind of get escalation, and like it's a stupid logic that doesn't make sense, that shouldn't be there, but at least it's some kind of logic. Not using weapons in the territory of Russia just does not make any sense how it would place and how it's benefiting for the positive outcome of this war. It's just stupid. Caitlin, on a scale of 1 to 10, how fucked will be the Russian logistics network will be in the next few months? Well, it's a lengthy answer. I'm not sure if I'm going to answer it fully. I will talk about Russian logistics in my soon video because that's kind of a key topic that needs to be covered. Russian logistics, there will be problems with Russian logistics in certain areas. The other logistical issues are not going to be significantly impacted yet. So I would say about 3. So the problem will be about the scale of 3. So not that high. Lil Bubs, love the outdoor setup. Yeah, thank you. That's the only one that I got. Like, I thought I will stream from my hotel room, but my hotel room doesn't even have a table, so I can't even like properly put stuff. And my bed, like it's a weird bed, which is like it's basically like 15 centimeters from the floor, so it's like super low. So I cannot even put a notebook on the bed to kind of be on a level. It's so dumb. Sorry. Yes. We've seen Ukraine has attacked dozens of Russian oil refineries. How many have been attacked and how many of those refineries are seriously damaged? It's hard to estimate, little Bobs, right? It's definitely making an impact. We know that it makes an impact. It's hard to precisely state, because look at this. Like, so, for example, the facility around the north, around St. Petersburg, there was an attack at the start of these attacks. That facility is still offline because Ukraine hit very, very specific parts. Oh my God, big city experience. I hope you're enjoying this. Oh my God. I'm not a big city boy, so for me this is like kind of crazy with all the sounds. I think someone is not gonna, don't want to let through the ambulance, so ambulance is like very loud. Anyway, I really hope you can hear me, guys, despite all of the noise. So, the facilities that were struck and then certain important things in those facilities got destroyed, then it might be really problematic to restore that thing back into that facility. However, if on other facilities, for example, the strike came and it destroyed just oil tanks, like the big, essentially barrels full of oil, it's still damage, but it doesn't really prevent the refinery from working. You get me? So it's very varied, and it's very hard to estimate specifically because Russia has implemented a lot of taboos on filming the damage and so on. So there are OSINT analysts that are trying to analyze this, but it's a huge effort, especially because it might be varying about how much specifically Russia can and cannot get equipment for the substitution from the Western world. I love this cafe style format, thank you. It's so quiet, I thought you would hear cars and a lot more in the background. Wait, you didn't hear the ambulance? There we go. Maybe it's the microphone, it's actually maybe noise cancelling, that would be nice. If it does noise cancel, that's super nice. No, I see Marcus writing, Biwa, Biwa, yeah. So it wasn't noise cancelling, okay, it's fine. Yeah, by the way, we're still doing our drone campaign. We extended it to the second drone because people really asked for the patch. And I'm not going to be pushing it aggressively because I want to give people time to kind of get into the campaign. I'm just going to still kind of advertise and say that it's there, but get your patches and so on, because I got like a lot of mails for people. It's like, oh my God, like I love this Baba Yaga patch. Can I still get it? Yes. With Russia sabotaging factories in NATO countries and missile accidentally cross borders, should we say this is enough reason to close the skies above Ukraine? Listen, Beep, so far we're closing the skies above Russia, all right? Because that's what we're doing, effectively. So I think like then we shouldn't be like, we should just tell Russia, we already are closing skies over you, over Russia, so we're also going to close the skies over Ukraine. How about that? I think that's just fair, isn't it? Like, why are we closing the skies and ground over Russia, but not over Ukraine? That's my answer. Louis Paul Herbert. Will Ukraine be able to increase its food exports and production? It's an interesting question. Depends on the situation. You know, it's obviously not easy, but Ukraine did the most important thing. They've basically dominated, they've won the war for the Black Sea. So they were able to open the most efficient trading corridor through the port infrastructure. The more anti-air will come, the safer this port infrastructure will be. So I do believe that we will see steadily increase of Ukrainian food exports in general. Mr. Blinken said the use of U.S. weapons isn't encouraged, but basically Ukraine will do what it needs to do. Some people interpret it as a permission to strike on RF territory. So this was like, as soon as that statement came out, I said that it's not a confirmation that Ukraine is allowed to strike the targets. Since then, the Pentagon and other parts of the U.S. Ministry of Defense came out and stated very clearly and openly that there is no change in policy on Ukraine, that Ukraine is still generally prohibited from striking there. So Blinken said it, yes, but all of the responsible parties came out after that and said like, no, we have no change in policy. Ukraine is still banned. How's the coffee? It's okay. It's okay. I make better coffee. If you ever in Denmark come by my place, I'll make you a cup of coffee. I'm very happy that I make one of the better coffees in my city. One of the New Year's, me and my wife, we decided, because we love, like, it's a long story, sorry. Because me and my wife, we love this coffee, espresso, cappuccino style. And we couldn't find a proper coffee in our town where we live. We live in a relatively small town in Denmark. And so one Christmas, we just decided, okay, let's make a present for ourselves. And we invested and we bought like an Italian espresso machine at home. It's not really Italian, but you get my point. So since then, every day is a happy coffee day, and I love it. Has anyone in Germany asked what MAGA means? No one asked what MAGA means, but there were people that really knew who we are when we were walking down with Starsky, and they came out to say hi. And we gave them a hug, and unfortunately they just like kind of departed before we even were able to exchange any kind of information, give a shout out. So my friend, if you're watching this by any chance, know that we love you, and I will definitely, if I see you next time, I will make sure that we have a little bit more contact, because it's very pleasant. Like, we were very shocked with Starsky that we got really recognized on the street. That was very, very weird experience. Pleasantly, but weird. Hi G, hope the day finds you well. Have you heard anything about the children stolen by Putin? I mean, I hear plenty, but it's like, it's one of those topics that I don't cover. It's because it's such a big and difficult topic to cover. It's like the same kind of like the topic about Ukrainian people that got disabled, amputees, psychological trauma, people that were left without houses, homes, all of these civil tragedies. And I don't usually cover on my channel as much, mostly because I feel that the war effort right now takes precedent. So if Ukraine is helped to win the war, then everything else kind of comes to say, like, with benefits. And I believe it's kind of the same with the stolen children. Like, it's a huge problem, and it's definitely somewhere on my mind. But I know that, like, if I want to get those children returned to Ukraine, then it's not yet the time to go forward and fully, like, dedicate my efforts to help that. Because if Russia loses, like, or more precisely when, well, it's hard to say when, because, like, people have been really not tough, but there's a lot of people that are listening to me from the Western countries, EU, US, and they feel really sensitive, because I always bitch about how we are not doing enough, how we are not supplying enough resources to Ukraine fast enough, in enough quantities, and not dedicating our efforts to Ukraine, like, fully. And some people, like, they just like, okay, can you please stop complaining about these things? Like, can you stop always blaming us and so on? And it's very discouraging, because I explained this many times. We in Europe and in US have the easiest job in the world, right? We don't have to do anything. Like, we don't have to send our boys, make some kind of complicated decisions, whatnot. like try to like oh my God, what will happen if we like how many of our civilians will need to die for Ukraine to win? Like nothing of those like really fundamental questions are even coming to our table. The question that comes to our table is just like dedicate a little bit of military resource and then Ukraine wins, right? Because the resource that we possess is like many times over. There was calculation presented sometime recently, and basically we in the Western world are dedicating barely 0.25% of our economic potential essentially to Ukraine. So less than a quarter of percent, whereas like Russian input is like almost 6% into their war machine. So the point is that even with this 0.2%, Ukraine is doing quite well. If we can increase to maybe like 1%, like essentially like a smaller part ever, Ukraine will absolutely crush Russia because it's a resource war. So if there is enough resource, Ukraine will win. My problem is always the same. We have all of the resources. We have the ability to do that. We're not required to make life and death decisions to our civilians. And the end outcome will be beneficial for everyone. It would be beneficial for us. It would be beneficial to Ukraine. It would be beneficial even for fucking Russia. Like, and we are now here in this situation where not only we're not doing enough of this, the easiest job ever, because just dedicate more money. Like, come on, 1%. It's not that huge of an amount. We are now in a situation where we not only are not dedicating enough, we are taking like over 6+ months to decide. We are having countries that are actively sabotaging our external politics, and we are also trying to prevent how Ukraine should fight. We're trying to put some kind of pressure on Ukraine how it should defend itself. So that's why I'm bitching. I am bitching because instead of just like doing it as simple as it is, just like letting it be and let the truth be what it is, we are now making up these problems for ourselves just because we cannot be responsible with our decisions. Like, Russia didn't do this to us. Well, I mean, it did, but in the majority, we are the one responsible for digging our own, well, it's not really grave, more like a stumbling stone that we just like decided to, like shooting yourself in the foot, basically. Yeah, that would be a better explanation. Why? Why are we doing this? And that's my frustration. And when I try to explain that this is the problem, people are like, why are you saying that we shot ourselves in the foot? Maybe it was the conditions, it's like we just needed to try out that someone needed to, like, how it would feel if you would have a bullet in your foot. And that's my problem. That's why I get frustrated. By the way, if the stream is going to just die, that's because my battery is running out. So if you'll see that the stream just dies, then that means like I'm out of juice and I couldn't do it. Otherwise, I will try to stream for additional like 15 minutes or so. I know it's a short stream, but at least I came out. Have you met Starsky in person before? This is the first time. No, this is the first time. I haven't met Starsky before in person. How many Soviet weapons are left in NATO countries? It's hard to estimate. There has been certain deliveries, but not all of the countries has disclosed what they have delivered, specifically, for example, Bulgaria. So it's very hard to estimate how much stuff in Bulgaria is left, as an example. Romania as well. I'm hearing some of the front are near starvation. Are they getting food and ammo? I mean, let's just say that it's not that there is no food. It's more about the problem of logistics. It's not that Ukraine is running low on food. Don't get it wrong. But it's about how to get logistics to the front lines. And that challenge is always existing, and it's a problem from time to time. But it's not like that people don't have anything to eat like everywhere. it might be problem of some specific situation on the front lines. So at least from what I know. Ammo has been coming in as well. I've recently just covered. Well, it's not. It's more on Discord. I covered as pro-Ukrainian communities were bitching that there is like no ammunition. Yet every time I ask and so on, they say like, no, the ammunition is slowly but surely coming in. So, do you think that by the end of the year we will see NATO troops in Ukraine, French, Estonian, etc.? I think it's definitely on the table. I definitely think that we shouldn't draw ourselves into this corner where we don't use the forces. I think the forces should have been there essentially from day one. For example, preventing the troops, like blocking Moldova, for example, not allowing troops from Moldova to operate. I thought that from day one we should have covered the airspace over the nuclear facilities. I thought that we should have get the peacekeepers into Ukraine on the nuclear facilities, for example. So I think that the troops might come in, especially the Baltics, maybe Polish troops, and I think they will try to do it maybe first discreetly, and there it's just going to be a fact. Little Bobs, it's not as loud as you think. Don't worry too much about the noise. Oh, nice, because for me it was very loud. How bad was the destruction of the Dnipro Dam against Crimea's water supply? Even if Russia wins, Crimea still needs the Dnipro. Yes, but you need to understand also that the Crimean bridge is also infrastructure. I believe it also has some pipes that go along the Crimean bridge. It's not enough, but plus Russia has been building stuff over the land corridor that they're having to Crimea. So it's Dnipro is definitely the primary source, sure, but the easiest one. But Russia has been trying to set certain stuff up to make sure that it's working. We have dug our own hole, yeah, for sure. Is the goal by first suspending anti-air in Crimea and then F-16s to get localized air control around the Dnipro and Kherson to set up preconditions to make a large-scale crossing feasible? So Shimra, right now it's very hard to say what would be the specific things. It is well known that if Ukraine wins essentially the air warfare over Crimea, the south, then it's basically going to sabotage every single Russian position. Like, I want you to imagine the map of Ukraine and imagine that Ukrainian planes would be able to fly over Crimea. That would be catastrophic for Russians. That would sabotage pretty much everything. Obviously, it is the precondition for the ground offensive. This is something that we discovered very, very well. Right now, Russia is advancing for the most part because they have the air advantage, because the planes are able to drop the just dumb bombs that are destroying a lot of stuff. So it's good. Yeah, I think the fact that they're wearing blue and yellow is coincidence. But I mean, like, I don't know if it's going to be the Dnipro offensive or not. I don't want to think about it too much. I think it's a bit too early. But in general, I think it's definitely a precondition. Yeah, the Kerch Bridge is an illegal construction on the territory of Ukraine. Okay, I don't see any more questions. So this is the short stream. Let me see if you write anything else. And if there's not going to be anything else, I'm going to wrap it up. Maybe go charge my my notebook or something, and maybe hopefully I will still be able to capture Starsky, and we can do the follow-up stream, because we still haven't recorded shit with Starsky. That's unfortunate. Sebastian, what weapons do you imagine Ukraine would use to finally destroy the Kerch Bridge? Attackams, F-16s, boat drones? Boat drones. Obviously boat drones. That's the only thing that can pretty much take the Crimean Bridge. So there's like two things that can destroy bridges in the current situation for Ukraine. It's the boat drones and the like a dumb bombs for Ukraine. So either it's going to be Ukrainian Air Force just flies in, destroys any kind of defenses around the Crimean bridge, so the boats then just can come in, or they will clear out air defense, and then some bombs, some planes carrying bombs will fly to drop the bombs on the bridge. It's one or the other. Has US and SpaceX blocked Starlink for Russians? As far as I heard, yes, they started blocking Starlinks for Russians. Did you watch the fight last night? No, I haven't watched. I was sleepy. But I watched, obviously, the results of it. Hanso, were three drones attacks so-called 40... Were these drones attacks the so-called 48 hours... the drones attacked Crimea, Novorossiysk, and Krasnodar region in Russia. There's many videos of Ukrainian drones attacking. There's like a whole video over Novorossiysk. There is like a video showing the air defense working. I'm pretty sure it's going to be on our Discord somewhere. It's like from the Russian militaries, and they're showing like the drones are flying, and then there's like bullets like from all directions, like firing everywhere. It's pretty crazy. As a Dane, have you heard about Legograd in Voronezh, Russia instead of Legoland? I'm not a Dane. I have not heard about the Legograd in Voronezh. Canada, good idea to charge up. I'm sure we want to stream to him as well. Yes, absolutely. It's like one of the reasons why I'm doing this stream is because like my battery started running out anyway. So I was like, okay, if I stream now, and I found a place to sit down essentially and talk. It's a little bit problematic to do. There was like a whole carnival in the middle of the city today, and there was like so many people. Top-notch stream for sure. Okay, cool. Lovely. So yeah, a little bit of a catch-up, just so you know, guys, that I'm alive, answering some of the questions. We're going to talk plenty more. I am driving home tomorrow early morning, and unless I get into some major breaks on the highway, so if basically I arrive home past 8 in the evening, I hope it's not, because it's going to be means that I'm going to be like 13 hours on the road. That would be pretty crazy. But if not, I will get home as fast as I can, and if I get fast enough, I will also make video tomorrow. Otherwise, what is it going to be? Tuesday. But I'm going to aim for tomorrow. So otherwise, I'm also going to try to charge up, get to Starsky, and get the second part of this stream going. Perfect. Really glad to see you guys. Hope these answers help.